This house, built on the exact spot where her childhood home had been destroyed in a fire when she was 10, felt alive with secrets. A hidden door, barely visible behind a crack in the concrete, yawned open. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and dust. She stepped through, her heart pounding, and the world tilted. The room was a sanctuary of timepieces. Each clock stopped at 3:17 a.m., the exact moment her mother had died. Clara's breath caught as she realized the date on the journal she'd found, 2023. Her mother's handwriting, precise yet trembling, read, "The fire was never my fault. It was always you." For the first time in 20 years, Clara understood the weight of the silence that had followed the fire. Clara's fingers trembled as she turned the pages. The journal was a fragile thing, its cover stained with time. "I am the fire," the first entry read, "but I am not the one who caused it." Her mother's voice echoed in the silence. "You were always the one who said it," the next page whispered. Clara's childhood memory of the fire, a flash of smoke, the smell of burnt wood, was now a shadow in her mind. She remembered the night she was 10, standing by the back porch, watching the flames consume her home. But the fire had never been hers. The journal spoke of a time loop, a cycle where she would always cause the fire, yet never remember it. Her mother had died in that fire, but her consciousness had survived, waiting for Clara to return. Clara closed her eyes, trying to remember the fire. She saw herself as a child, 10 years old, standing on the porch, watching the flames rise. But the fire wasn't the house, it was her. She had been the spark. The journal described the accident, a dropped match, a forgotten candle, a moment of panic. But the fire had always been her. She reached for the journal, the words burning in her mind. "You were always the one who said it," her mother had written. Clara realized the fire wasn't a memory, it was a repetition. Every time she tried to forget, the fire returned. She had been living in a loop, reliving the same accident, the same loss, the same silence. The journal was the key. It would break the loop if she could find the truth. Clara turned to the clock in the room. It showed 3:17 a.m., the exact time her mother had died. She ran her hand over the cold metal, feeling the weight of time. The clock wasn't broken, it was alive. It had been counting down to the next fire, the next loop. She remembered her mother's voice, "The fire was never my fault. It was always you." Clara's hands shook as she traced the numbers. Her mother had been a time traveler, sent back to prevent the fire. But the fire had always been her. She had been the spark, the match, the one who caused it. The clock was the proof, the only proof that the fire was real, that she was responsible. She had to stop it. The fire was her. Clara stood in the hallway, the house silent around her. She remembered the night she was 10, the fire, the smoke, the screams. She had been there. She had seen the flames. But she hadn't caused them. The fire was her. She had been the spark. She had been the one who set it. She closed her eyes and felt the heat of the flames. She saw herself as a child, standing on the porch, watching the house burn. But the house wasn't burning, it was her. She had been the fire. She had been the one who caused it. The journal was the key to the truth. She had to find the fire before it burned her again. Clara ran her hands through her hair, trying to remember. The fire was her. She had been the one who set it. The journal said it was her fault. She had caused it. But how? She remembered the match, the candle, the moment of panic. She had been 10 years old. She had been the child who set the fire. She had been the one who caused it. She looked at the clock again, the hands frozen at 3:17 a.m. It was the same time her mother had died. The clock was the proof she had been the fire. The time loop was real. She had been living in it for years, reliving the same accident, the same loss. She had to break it before the next fire. Clara heard a voice. It was her mother's. "You were always the one who said it," the voice whispered. "The fire was never mine. It was always you." Clara turned, but there was no one. She was alone. The voice was inside her head. Her mother had been a time traveler, sent back to prevent the fire. But the fire had always been her. She had been the spark, the match, the one who caused it. She had never remembered. The journal was the key. It would break the loop if she could find the truth. The fire was her. She had to stop it before it burned her again. Clara stood in the middle of the room, the clock silent, the journal open. She had to choose, break the loop or let the fire burn. She remembered the night she was 10, the fire, the smoke, the screams. She had been there. She had seen it. But she hadn't caused it. The fire was her. She had been the one who set it. She had to stop it. She looked at the clock, the hands frozen at 3:17 a.m. It was the time her mother had died. The journal said, "You are the fire. You must stop it." Clara closed her eyes and felt the heat of the flames. She had to choose, break the loop or burn. Clara opened the journal to the last page. The words were clear, "You are the fire. You are the one who sets it." She had been the fire. She had caused the fire. The fire was her past, her present, her future. She had been living in a time loop for years, reliving the same accident. But the fire wasn't real, it was her mind. The journal was a metaphor. She had been the fire. She had caused it. She had to stop it. The clock was the proof she had been the one who set it. She closed the journal and stood in the room, the fire still burning in her heart. Clara took a deep breath. The fire was her. She had been the one who set it. But she had stopped it. She closed her eyes and felt the heat of the flames. She remembered the match, the candle, the moment of panic. She had caused it. But she had stopped it. The fire was gone. The clock was silent. She had broken the loop. The journal was the key, but the fire was over. She had stopped it. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. The clock had stopped at 3:17 a.m., the time her mother had died. But now, the fire was gone. She had saved herself. Clara walked out of the house, the sun rising over the horizon. The fire was gone. She had stopped it. The clock was silent. She had broken the loop. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. The journal was the key, but it was over. She had saved herself. The fire had been real, she had caused it. But she had stopped it. She had broken the loop. The house was safe. She walked into the light, the fire behind her, the clock silent in her heart. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. Clara sat on the porch, the sun warm on her face. The fire was gone. She had stopped it. The loop was broken. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. The clock was silent. She closed her eyes and felt the warmth of the sun. The fire was in her heart, but it was gone. She had broken the loop. She had saved herself. The house was safe. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. The fire was over. She had won. Clara stood in the empty house, the clock silent. The fire was gone. The loop was broken. She had been the fire, but she had stopped it. The clock showed 3:17 a.m., the time her mother had died. But now, it was the time she had saved herself. She turned to the window, the sun rising over the horizon. The fire was over. She was free. The clock was silent. The fire was gone. She had stopped it. She was free.